Welcome to the first board meeting in August for the HOA. We'll primarily start with appeals, then work through our agenda. We have a lot of things on the agenda today, some exciting, some not. But we'll get through those as everything as promptly as we can. My goal is always to try and get out of here in 2 hours, but this may not be successful today, but we'll give it a try. Okay, with that, we'll start with our Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance and to the republic which stands under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You ask me.
Ready? Okay. We'll start with roll call to order and roll call. I'm Jeffrey Goodman. I'm the current president of the HOA, and Jill and I have lived here for a little over 11 years. And to my right is
John Tomei, current vice president of the board, and we've been here almost 8 years.
And I'm Cindy Scanlon in the community since 2015, and if you have my name tag, please get it back.
I'm Joe Young. I have a name tag. Been in the community for 17 plus years. Glad to see you all here. So like to come to the side.
Helen Hodak is absent today. We did talk to her this morning. It's midnight in South Africa, and she's 10,500 miles away. It's closer to Sydney than it is to San Francisco. So she'll be back on Wednesday or Thursday, I think, after a 26-hour flight. Jane?
My name is Jamie Walls. I am your general manager and I work for the Management Trust.
Rosanna Rocha, I'm the Community Association Manager and I work for Management Trust.
Thank you very much, everybody.
I don't know if somebody has the video on their phone, but I hear an echo from somewhere and I'm not really sure what's.
Here it now, so.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. With that, we get approval for the board minutes for July 7th, an executive meeting and a special meeting on July 7th. And also on July 14th was a board meeting and an executive session also. I think everybody was in attendance. John was not in attendance there. He was traveling, and Helen was in attendance for those two meetings. So can I get a motion to adopt the minutes of the July 7th, July 14th?
So
Can I get
moved.
a second?
Can I get a second? Second. All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Sorry, I have to get my cheat sheet out. Okay. Yeah. First, we have a member's appeal, 1037 Pomerol, a request to move some trees that are on HOA property. This was discussed at one of our prior meetings, and we were asked for some more information. So with that, Jamie, could you lead us through that, please?
Yeah, so like Jeffrey said, that this was a discussion at the last meeting. The board asked if removing these 3 trees could cause possibly any type of erosion issues. I did reach out to a tree company and they did say that due to the location, there is a chance that there could be an erosion issue just because, again, they're at the very top of the hill. So again, a chance doesn't mean that it's a for sure thing, but that is what the board asks for.
So with that, do I hear a motion to approve such request to remove these 3 trees on that homeowner's, on the HOA property that's in back of the homeowner's lot? Hearing no second, that motion has not been accepted or approved, so we'll move on to the next item. The next member appeal, next member request was I was approached by several members about why we don't have a California flag on the flagpole out front. And my first answer was, that's a good question. I have no idea. So I did a little bit of research on, is that a behavior that we should have, how to display a California flag below the national flag. And I did reach out to the Veterans Club because they're kind of, even though it's an HOA asset, they're the one that kind of use the flag and manage it and have ceremonies around it. And the commander of the Veterans Club wrote me a note back, which I'll just summarize it or read you the salient part. It says, while we recognize this importance of representing our state, the consensus was to preserve the poles currently used solely for the American flag as a symbol of national unity and respect for our armed forces. On the other side, I think there has lots of benefits for our California flag. Obviously, California, we live in California. It's a pretty awesome place. You know, the California flag represents a lot of cultural history and values about our state. I think it has a chance for all of us to recognize that we do live in California. Our laws for the HOA are developed by California through the California state law. And I think it's a patriotic duty to recognize just the California flag as well as the national flag. And under our CCNRs, we're allowed to make this recommendation. So I'm going to make a motion, and then we can discuss it. The board approves the display of a California state flag below the U.S. flag on the same flagpole located in the mailroom plaza, entrance to the Club Los Meganos, in compliance with all federal, state, local laws, including the U.S. flag needs to be displayed at the peak. The California flag needs to be similar size or smaller. It has to follow the normal protocol for etiquette and maintenance standards, and Blue Star would raise and lower the flags as appropriate. So with that, do I get a second for that motion?
Second.
Do I have some discussion on that topic?
Yeah, generally, you see the California flag displayed at public and government facilities. It's not usually displayed at private facilities. I think it does create a lot of additional complexity in the flag, especially when you have the half-mast periods and things of that nature. I don't see a strong overriding reason to do it.
I like that you went to the vets and asked them, and the fact that we went to them and they said they don't see the need at this time. I would like to go with what they have suggested. If we don't plan on going with what they said, what we pointed out, I don't mind having it inside. Could we not have a flag inside when we have meetings? Like Joe said, I looked it up. It's not a state, county, municipal building. It's not a college or school, state occupied building. Some people say it's associated with slaves. And it's the exclusion of the indigenous people. I'm okay with flying it inside.
Okay. So I would say we have a first and a second. We've had discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The motion does not pass at this point, and we may bring it up in another day when we have a full forum at the meeting, but for now it is not approved. The next item on our agenda is a member asked for waiver or
Wrong person.
Is that the Apple woman? Oh,
That's the Apple one. Haven't had a chance to put it on till disturb.
you got to announce yourself in that. I think
I'm here.
we had have a request from a homeowner who's having a birthday party at the wine barn late in the year. They have signed up and made arrangements to have that wine barn. They have about 50 guests coming. The problem is our rules only allow for 4 guests, and they have a large family and they have some personal friends that would come visit. So it'd be a total of 17 non-members. They're way and above the 4. I'm pleased that they asked for permission as opposed to just do it. So that gives them a gold star. But I would like to have some discussion, see if it's something we want to approve. And John, do you want to go first? Or do you have
I want to go first.
Or excuse me, do you have any comments?
Okay. Yeah, we've done this before. And while I'm not opposed to having additional guests, this is a little bit over the norm. And when we have had outsiders who are not necessarily family, and we ask, please, no music and that sort of thing, some sort of a box always shows up. And we've had complaints from neighbors in the area, and the crowd's that big. So I'm not opposed to increasing the number. I'm just not sure if 17 is a good number.
Okay, so as you pointed out, it's totally against policy. And if we allow one, we have to allow all. Meaning if we allow this family, then anyone else that wants to do it, we have to allow that as well. We have additional spaces that they could use. We have Abby's, we have the back patio even. So I'm against this.
Yeah, I would comment that there was a lot of turmoil involved in developing that policy. And the main reason for that is that we have residents that live around there, and the land barn wasn't supposed to be a big collection place for them. I did have my 70th birthday party here. There was about 100 people.
I was there.
And it's not very exciting. So it is possible to do it. I think we shouldn't change those policy.
Yeah, obviously parking is an issue, but, you know, we've had events of, I know the Teach event there, which was all members, of course, but that, you know, was an event for about 80, so I mean, it doesn't seem to bother me. My observation is, given that there are going to be about 8 couples of members, can easily just, each one of them can bring 4 guests and still be consistent with the policy. So I think we're going out of the way to make it a little more difficult for our members, and I do appreciate the fact that they asked for permission. So I guess I'll make a motion to allow this is a lunch event too, by the way. I didn't say that earlier. I'll make a motion to grant the waiver for up to 17 guests. Do I have a second? Hearing no second, the request is denied, and we'll move on to the next item. Now we're going to go into the reports. I'm not doing the resort report, but I do want to just do a report on a couple of weird things that have happened. I'll read you this note. It says, I was informed yesterday by our maintenance staff that the shower heads in the ADA shower of the men's locker rooms have been stolen and replaced by cheaper or different versions on 3 separate occasions over the past 2 months. And there's an expletive there, but
In the shower?
so that's just one thing. And we've had a bunch of situations where people are volunteering to fix things. We have a maintenance staff that's very competent and qualified, but that's what their job is, to fix things. We have a work order system on MTL. If you got something that needs to be fixed, go there. We have some shades that have just been installed in the bocce court that are broken because a member was trying to fix them. So that's money out of your pocket, my pocket, for people trying to fix stuff. Let's leave the fixing stuff to the professionals. So, and I would also ask you, if you see Robert and Scott walking around, you know, let them do their job. Just follow the process we have, put a request into the concierge. They'll get it on the list. If they're not meeting your timeline, just go back to the concierge, but let's just follow the process. We're spending money we don't need to spend, and I have nothing to do with breaking the bocce courts, but I gotta pay for it. So please, that's my resort report.
Jeff, if I can just quickly
Please.
add, if you don't know how to do a maintenance update on MTL, once a month, Tony has MTL school. You can go and find out how to do it, but we also have a pull down menu
Yeah.
on MTL that says maintenance, click it, fill it out, send it, you'll get an email back within minutes saying, we will look into it.
And, you know, another thing is we've just spent a ton of money over there getting that rack cleaned up. But please don't go over there and start pressing buttons, you know, on the AV system, because it's all fine tuned to various different features. So, you know, every time we have to call somebody out, it's a couple $100 to drive from Oakland to have him come out and fix stuff. So if you don't know what you're doing, even if you do know what you're doing, don't touch it. Okay, back to the agenda. We're gonna, Joe has, as you know, been leading carrying the heavy water on this builder defect thing. And I'm happy to report that after a long period, we finally have received a settlement to our claim. Joe's gonna walk you through all this, the process, what the background, where we are, and kind of what the next steps are. So we'll just kind of let Joe do that. Hopefully, if you have some questions, we can take care of them in open forum. So, yes.
Just a real quick thing, Joe, when you start in, can you talk a little louder, please? Can't hear you when you're over.
Okay.
Step. Thanks.
Thank you, Tom. Okay, Joe, please.
All right. I put this slide up because of nostalgia. I've been working on this for over 6 years, and I just wanted to show all the check marks that have finally been accomplished on that. And as Jeffrey said, we did get the arbitrator's decision, and we're going to build on that, and that's what the rest of the discussion will be.
Next slide. Okay, this is the shade defect remediation project planning is what's coming up here. And like that picture, that's there's a lot of neat stuff. And the focus of the problem, which we'll be talking about, focuses around the indoor pool building, the overhang by it, and there are other problems throughout, which I will talk about. But that's where everything centers. Go ahead, next slide. So just a little bit about the timeline. 2010, Club Las Veganas opened. It was great. I'd already lived here a couple of years. It wasn't one when I moved in. It was a fantastic place. Somewhere between 2010 and January 26, 2019, Shea discovered, acknowledged, or became aware of the fact that there was a significant problem with the HVAC system in the pool building, and it was not able to keep the moisture out. They came to us on the 26th and said they have a problem. They're working on trying to deal with it. They want to talk to our attorney. We didn't have an attorney that dealt with that. We have our regular attorney who I talked to, and she said, we don't handle this kind of case. You need to get an outside counsel for that. We interviewed 3 different firms, selected one to move forward. We posted the notice of claim on March 26, 2019. So it took us about 2.5 months to get the process rolling. The next 6 years, up to May 5 of 2025, we had several formal mediation projects that we tried. COVID delayed things a little bit. We were never able to reach an agreement with Shea. And so on May 5th, we started the formal arbitration, which is the way we are required to resolve the problem by the CC&Rs. We're not allowed to go through a lawsuit. We have to do binding arbitration. And that actually went pretty fast. July 31st, the arbitrator made his award. We'll talk about that. Next slide. Just a little bit of the scope. As I said, the pool building, including the fitness and locker rooms, was the focus of the main problem. We are going to be looking at basically removing the exterior stucco, removing the interior finish and sheetrock, pulling out all the windows and doors, working on the roofing, putting in a new larger HVAC system, and putting that building back together. Our claim also included issues with the pool coping and decking, the exterior stacked stone that you see all around Trilogy. The spa building, there's some stucco problems there, not nearly significant like we have in the other building. The clubhouse and event center, we have some partial stucco problems. We have flooring problems with the Florentine tile. We've done a number of past repairs and flooring and road work that we have paid for, which we look to recover some funds for. When we do these projects, we're expecting the possibility of some lost revenue from our wedding and spa business, and there will be some lost use. We also have learned that there are many ADA deficiencies in this building. We included that in our claim. Unfortunately, we were not able to collect on that part. Go on to the next. So what did we get? As I said, we went through a number of mediation attempts. We hired formal mediators to work on it with Shea. The best offer we were able to get from them was about $5 million. Ultimately, when we went through the arbitration, the arbitrator awarded $12 million plus. Now, the way this works, there are investigative costs and expenses that the lawyers incur for consultants and things like that, not the lawyers' fee themselves, but expenses that they pay others. Those are recoverable, but they have to come out of that 12 million they're awarded. So the gross that's left over is about 11.5. This is a contingency case. There's a good couple of $1 million worth of attorney fees involved in it. We have to pay a 30% fee. It leaves us about $8 million left over. And the legal fees, it's contended, and we didn't address that in our arbitration because the CCNRs and the shade documents preclude legal fee collection. Next slide, Jamie. So we're optimistic that the award will cover a majority of the most critical items, primarily the pool building and some of the minor other things that need to be fixed, whether we have water intrusion problems and things of that nature. A lot of the other items we've either already paid for and addressed, or we will address them through our normal maintenance and reserve program. There may be a need for some belt tightening and potential future lost revenue when we do the major part of the construction. There'll be some inconvenience. We obviously are going to have to close the indoor pool when we tear the building apart and rebuild it. We might be able to keep the outdoor pool open during part of it. We'll certainly look at that opportunity. Locker rooms may not be, well, they definitely won't be available during the time the building is taken apart. And just a note that if we can't quite cover everything, if we had to get an additional $1 million, for instance, it cost about $18 a month over a 5-year period per home. I'm not saying we have to, I'm just giving you an order of magnitude of what could possibly be out there. So the next steps, this is going to be an important part, forming a defect project working group committee. We'll be getting an announcement out. We're going to be looking for a civil engineer, a mechanical engineer, electrical engineer, an architect, and construction management. I think we have these kind of people in Trilogy, and we're going to want to get them in there. This is a big project, and we need some expertise to help us oversee the experts working on it. The payment from Shea or the insurance company is due by September 15th. Those funds will go into a dedicated special reserve interest-bearing account where we will keep them separate in order to be available for the project that we'll be putting together. Obviously, there's going to be some town halls to get community input on the design and functionality choices. We have an opportunity to make some changes in that part of the building. There's a few things that I definitely think we should change, and there may be some others that people know about and bring out. We'll be considering hiring a professional project manager to run this project. Jeffrey and Vinny did an outstanding job when we did the kitchen project, but this is a lot bigger than that project. We will have to define the preliminary work scope. What are we going to do? And how about all the other things we talked about? Which ones we're going to address and when? Then the big thing will be deciding on what I call the contract form. In other words, a traditional project is you design it, you bid it, you build it. Now, this is a rather complex problem. There may be some advantages in doing what I consider as a design build project, where you bring the contractor that you're going to use on board during the design process so that you have input with the design engineers and architects as you're going through the project, picking the best way to approach it based on the capabilities and expertise of the contractor. Don't know which we'll do yet. The attorney we have says he actually has a couple projects already that are going that way with other clients. I've done a couple projects myself that way at church and the Olympic Swim Center. And it's worked out fairly well, but like I say, that will be part of the scope of the defect project working group to look at those options. Regardless of how we end up, we still will have to advertise for and select the project team, the AEs, the engineers, contractors. My vision is design will be occurring in fall and winter of this year in 26, hopefully with construction starting in the summer of 26. I don't know if I got another slide in there.
No.
That's it. So at that point, I think people want to be happy.
Yeah, we'll take some questions during the open forum, so try and stay organized. But I can't, on behalf of myself and the community, I can't thank Joe enough for doing 98%.
There were other people, Jamie helped a lot and Jeffrey's had his fingers in it too, so everybody is.
But don't kid you, Joe carrying water. I mean, so you can't imagine what a value that was, and also watching him work, because I know what a pain he is to me. I mean, watch him take those lawyers to task was really kind of
It
fun.
was fun,
So,
yeah.
we have a true asset that Joe really brought this thing home, so thank you so much. Cindy, you have some comments you want to make about the settlement?
No, that's all people have been asking me when they see me in the hall. What do we get? What do we get? They said, "Are you happy with it?" And I jokingly said, because that's what I do. If this was, 2018, I'd be ecstatic. But I am happy with it. We will be able to get a lot done. And I can't wait to just dig in and begin. And thank you, Art, for being patient. And we ask that continues because we will be a little inconvenienced. And again, big thanks to Joe.
Joe?
I just want to reiterate what you said about Joe. In fact, there were times when I said, this looks really good. I can go for it. And I'd text Joe and I'd say, okay, so what do you think? And we got a lot done through that. There was a lot of give and take and a lot of meetings. And like Cindy, when I first saw the amount of, didn't exactly do handstands, considering where we started and where we ended up. But what we have satisfies the most critical piece, and that's the pool building and the pool complex. So from that standpoint, we should probably consider this a nice win.
Yeah, I guess, people ask me, is it fair? Well, it's the process we had to go through. I mean, that's what the state law requires. That's what our CCNR requires. We went through an arbitrator who was professional and does this for a living. And yeah, just lawyers are expensive. I mean, and that was the contract that we had. Nobody wanted to pay out of pocket going forward. You imagine how that would have gone over. So I'm pleased that we're where we are and ready to move on to the next step. But member engagement on the next step will be absolutely critical, because we've got an opportunity to make sure that this money that we have is satisfying the needs that we want as a community. So with that, we'll move on to the next topic. If you have some questions, be happy to take them through open forum. They want to try and keep this organized. So we'll get to open forum in just a minute. Want to get a report from one of the task force, or excuse me, one of the ad hoc committees that we started a month or so ago. Craig Berger has been leading that working group, and he's going to give us an update of where they are.
Walk up there without falling, if somebody can see. I ran into my mat last night. Was not a good plan. Hi, everybody. My name's Craig Berger. I have the pleasure of being on the Abby and Alice's working group, and whenever I see the abbreviation ANA, I take a bit of an exception to that. So let's not refer to it as the ANA working group that I am head of. No, that's not a good idea. But I'd like to thank everybody that's on the committee. I recognize them. First of all, our liaison Cindy, who's done a lot of work already on this project. Myself, Jerry Haddock, who's unable to be here with us today, he's on his way to Seattle. Jill Geiger, who's unable to be here with us today because she's trapped in the garage. Tom Grasso, who's already provided a ton of work on this. Lois Rawlings and Ruth Brennan, who's also here with us today. So I did a lot of these project work in corporate America, and we used to call the two phases for us were Norman and Storman. Right? So just so we're clear on where we are, we're in the Norman stage. Right now, the group has been together for a couple of weeks. We're trying to collect a lot of information about what is required moving forward. So I had a lot of people asking, volunteering, what are your solutions? Here's what I propose we do. If we move the bar here, it fixes everything. So what the approach we're taking is a little bit different. We're trying to identify the key pain points that are driving the problem that we're trying to solve for. So rather than say, let's just move this here, we have identified, and this is still open, so anybody that has any other ideas, please feel free to send me an email or get anything to anybody in the group. We see the biggest dissatisfiers right now is just in Alice's bar. There's a lot of noise and logistics standing around the bar, particularly happening. There's a lack of venue diversity and variety, meaning is there a little room where you can go sit, have a cocktail and get an hors d'oeuvre? Is there other places where it can be more social? So, and then service efficiency improvements, service gaps in the bar and the restaurant, and then detailed ambiance and decor furnishings. So those are the 5 areas that we want to try to, so we think we need to focus on, say, if we solve for these member issues and concerns or gaps, will that get us where we want to go? So if we go to the next slide. So this breaks down the Alice's bar noise and logistic enhancements. This is deflecting a question I am anticipating later on today. So in order to solve this, there's a couple of ways that we're starting to think about it. Again, this is starting to think about it. But we could separate the dining seating from the bar. What are some options? What does that look like? Well, you could close off the bar area at the end of the current bar and add high tops inside of Alice's and make it more all of a kind of a bar kind of place. That's one option. You could leave Alice's alone and move the bar and seating area into the exploration lounge. You could leave Alice's alone. You could put the bar seating area into Abby's. Point being that there's a lot of ways you can solve for it, but that's the direction we want to go. So the group is going to continue to explore on that. How do you solve for the logistics and traffic flow within that? Same, now again, we're still talking about Alice's bar noise and logistics, but you could redesign table layouts to avoid crowding and reduce noise. You can remove the cabinet, separate the bar from the rest of Alice's. That cabinet that we had serving coffee on, you got to kind of wander around, especially if there's a bunch of guys standing at the bar. Excuse me, I got a drink, it's just now on you. Happens a lot. So those are acoustic solutions. Now, we're blessed to have Lois on the committee who really does this for a living. She's an acoustical expert working with companies all over. But we can start to look at things like installing sound absorbing wall panels. We could soften the furnishings and leverage softer rugs and upholstered things. We could create smaller pocket seating areas to prevent echo chambers effect. So the update I am providing is that the group has got together. We've met at one time officially. We've had multiple back and forth emails. And we're looking at this as a holistic process. We think we got one opportunity to really look at how we treat the F&B facilities here moving forward. So we're going to take our time and do this right. So before we start gathering for solutions, I'd ask everybody, as you look at this, to think about what is a dissatisfier? What, when you come here, dissatisfies you? What causes you not to come here? Okay, so and share that with us so that we're solving for the right problems. Then the intent will be to drill down to that and say, we have 5 or 6 solutions that we could look at. We'll try to follow a similar process to the what you call it, the funded capital improvement group, kind of ranking them, rank it in cost. I mean, for example, we could tear down the bar in Abby's and build a new bar in the exploration lounge, probably cost $500,000. Probably not what we want to do. But could we leave the bar where it is, and instead of having crowded seating there, move the bar into the lounge area and simply have runners back and forth? Then actually serve the drinks instead of having people having to sit at the bar and wait at the bar. If you'll back up 1 second for me, there's something that go back to the original in 1906. Trying to see it in between my glasses here. So I'm gonna
There's a delay. It'll go back.
Okay, so like under service efficiency improvements. Now, our focus is supposed to be on facilities, but we said we wanted to take a look really at what's really dissatisfying members. If all we looked at were physical facilities, somebody's going to say, Craig, you didn't listen to us. That's not what's bothering me. What's bothering me is I can't get a drink when I want one. What's bothering me is I can't get a receipt, my receipt when I want one. What's bothering me is that Billy Bob's too loud in the afternoon and I want a place where I can relax and talk. And so one of the things we talked about in service efficiency is the idea of using updated technology. You know, I remember 20 years ago, what was the small Chili's? You go into Chili's and they had a little stand right there that you can order your food. You could press for receipt when you're ready. Didn't have to wait. Didn't have to call Diane over. Right. So can we make it more customer friendly? And so that's kind of the process we're going through. So I'll stop there, and then we plan to update everybody as we go along. We will be sending out a couple of things. We did get a lot of data from Stephen. When I mean a lot of data, I mean 1,000 lines of data. And it's really I don't know, interesting? I don't know what to make of it. But the intent of was to try to be able to segment the community so that we could send survey out to really get feedback. This will be a community-driven project, right? If you don't get us your input, then shame on you. Okay, because that's what we're asking for. So the survey is going to come out, but it's going to be a single survey, but up front, we're going to ask you to self-identify as one of 5 categories. I'm a power user. I never go to the damn place. I'm here periodically, so that we can then ask you questions that are germane to your experience. I don't want to ask somebody that's here every day, why don't you ever come to the club? Okay, or somebody that's never been here, what don't you like? So that's how we're looking at doing this. Any input is greatly appreciated. Talk to your friends, get everybody involved. You have a chance to make a difference here right now, folks. And nothing is outside of the limits. You know, we may say, no, that's stupid to do, but it's not stupid to think of. I'll leave it there with that. Okay, anything else?
Greg, thank you. Joe, do you have any comments or thoughts for?
Well, it sounds very good. I mean, you covered all of the things that I think we've talked about in the past. There's some new ones. Actually, I like the idea of looking at the Explorer Lounge a little bit.
Yeah. I think it's a good team. I mean, we've assembled the best of the best. And if anybody seated is named Billy Bob, he wasn't talking about you. Just
It's a good team, it's a good combination, and we'll just see where we go.
Yeah, I'm very pleased because I mean, we've been pushing this thing for a while, but it has to be member driven. What do you guys think? If you don't want to talk about it, you can't complain about it when it gets done. So thank you everybody for that. And my main thing that I miss when you used to come in here, the old days, I'll call it 10 years ago, when you walk into the grand living room, it was a grand living room. And now it's kind of a multi-user space, a multi-purpose room, if you will. And I think I would love to get back to where you can get up and meet your friends and hang out and play card games or do whatever and chat. So thank you so much for that. With that, get another report from the CC&R amendment group. And it's David Crow is going to walk you through in the packet is a rather detailed description of kind of the process we're going through. David's going to kind of give us a high level view. You've heard me talk about how I think it's important. I know the rest of the board thinks amending our CC&Rs, getting the super majority fix is a problem, and David's going to show us how we can get it.
Right. So I'm David Crow. I've been here for about 12 years. And our committee, which is Jeffrey, Barry Michelson, and Joel Stoddard, have been looking at how you change the covenant conditions and restrictions. So first off, just a little refresher, if we can go to the next slide,
Yes.
is what are CC&Rs?
The rain's very bad.
Everybody turn their cell phones off.
Yeah.
So CC&Rs are simply an agreement you sign at the time you move into your property, promising to do certain things with your property and giving you certain rights to use the common areas here. Hopefully that enhances your enjoyment and protects your financial interest in the community. The key items in the CC&Rs have to do with financials, establishment of the board of directors, establishment of the design review committee. What it does not do is set the community rules and regulations. Those are through the bylaws and your handbook. So that's what CC&Rs are. All communities have them. We went and had a meeting with our attorneys to talk about the existing CC&Rs here. We can go to the next slide. The existing CC&Rs here were drafted in 2006 and signed in 2007. They really come from an earlier community developed by Shea, and they were literally brought here and then put in place here. So when I get to talk to you about what is the process for changing the CC&Rs, and that requires a vote of the membership of the community. The membership of the community is, each home is one member for voting purposes. So there's 1,065 votes in total. really what Shea did when they wrote these CCNRs was they did a lot of things in their own favor that are in the existing CCNRs. Also in the CCNRs are references to Shea throughout, and the fact that they controlled most of the property here at the beginning. And they also reference statutory law, which is no longer correct. The statutory scheme for homeowners associations was updated and renumbered in 2014. So quite simply stated, the CCNRs are too old to save just in a piecemeal fashion. And we have to present something to the homeowners in order to take care of this if that's what the board decides to do. The problem is Shea put in there a supermajority requirement. Supermajority is 66 2/3 of the community must vote to change anything in there. I think Jeffrey's talked about this before, that the maximum number of people that typically vote in any election here is 2/3. So as a practical matter, if you're going to ever change anything, whether it's what you want to change or what you want to change, or more importantly, what the board wants to change, it's going to be very difficult to do. Literally, you would have to get 100% of the people who actually vote, as we have done in the past. So under the current process, we would need 711 homeowners to vote in favor of changing any amendment. That's 2/3. The most we've had in any vote, from my understanding, is just around 700. So in summary, the CCNRs were drafted 20 years ago. They're out of date. They really were designed more for Shea and Shea's benefit than the homeowner's benefit. They're not in clear English. They're difficult to read. So we looked at what would it take to change the CCNRs. Go next. So where do we start? The provision, which I'll show you in a minute, 14.1 is what handles the supermajority. So what we would propose to do is first submit to the membership a single amendment to change that supermajority from the existing 66 2/3% to 50% of the people who actually vote. Actually 50% plus one of the people who vote to change any future changes to the CCNR. Does that make sense to people? Very simple. One vote. Do you want to change it from 66 2/3 to 50%? And in talking with our attorney, this is really the standard for most communities our size. One thing here, Jeffrey asked me to bring this up, is I guess there's been discussion about making it easier for members to vote and not use that paper system where you have to put the one ballot in the other ballot, sign your name, make sure you get it all right, to go to an electronic system of voting. We would keep the old paper system if people really are in love with that and like signing their names and putting things in paper ballots, but that would be one thing that maybe we should do. So we go next. What's needed now? We need the board's approval to go forward with the plan, to engage an attorney to draft a legally acceptable amendment, changing it from 2/3 to 1/3, or not 1/3 to 1/2, 50% plus one. And then once we have that in place, then the committee would look about marketing this. So if we present that amendment to the membership, what are the possible outcomes? First outcome is we actually get 711 or more people to vote in favor, and that's it. It's done. The requirement for future amendments is then reduced to 50 plus one. There's a second possibility. If more than 50% of the members, not the voting members, but of the members vote in favor, but less than 2/3, the law does allow for the engagement of an attorney to file a petition with the Superior Court in order to have a judge say it's just really too onerous for a 2/3 majority, given the fact that you can't get enough people to come out and vote, and the judge would then order it changed. And then the third possibility would be if less than 50% want to change it, then it's dead in the water, that you don't have a change. So if you look at the next slide, this is the existing amendment 14.1. So at least 66 2/3% of the voting power of each class of members. So Shay had a class, and then you had a class. You were all class B, by the way. You didn't even get a class A ownership when you moved here. So again, and it's understandable why Shay would do this. They were marketing houses at the time. They really drafted the CC&Rs, and there's lots of things in there I could go through and bore all of you to tears. But this is what we want to change, is that 2/3, 66 2/3. And we go to the next slide. I drafted something just so you can see the difference. So at the top there, 14.1 would read then that simply the master declaration, meaning the CC&Rs, may be amended only by an affirmative vote of at least 50% plus one of the voting members of the master association. And just in brief, that means 50% of the quorum people that vote. And then finally, so then looking ahead, that if we get this approved, where do we go from there? Or we put the vote to people, where do we go from there? We can go to the next slide. So first is this point I made previously about if we get 50%, if more than half of the people living here want to change from 2/3 to 50%, then we should consider going to court, filing petition, having a judge to say, yes, this makes sense for this community. And I put in here just some language. The section of the Civil Code that provides this says, allows this to be done as a safety value for those situations where the need for a supermajority vote would hamstring the association. And that's really what we're saying here. Look, 2/3 is a practical impossibility for us. We really need a lesser amount. We're proposing 50%.1. If we can't get that vote, we should consider going to court. So then after that, if we get the approval to 50%, then the next step would be a second election in order to redraft the existing CC&Rs, to update them, to take out the references to the old law, to take out the references to the developer, to Shay, to make them a clearer language for people to understand. And we might consider at that time putting in to that amendment inclusion of the NOLA clause, where we have capital funds coming in through the sale of existing homes. Jeff has proposed having a rental cap in there, and consider any other provisions in the CC&R as we look at them or people want to do. And then developing a marketing plan to submit this second round of voting to the members. The first step, the amendment, we've discussed that, submitting that at the time of the board election in November, but really after the first of the year in the first quarter of 26, and trying to get all this through, including the complete revision of the CC&R will be in, I estimate, at the end of 2026. So that's it.
Thank you, David. I've learned from this exercise, you want to get it right, get an attorney to help you out. Thank you, David. Joe, do you have any comment or thoughts on?
Just to clarify and looking at it. And you can check with the attorneys, but when I'm looking at what I see in the codes. The threshold for approval is 50% of the membership, not 50% of the voting members.
I thought that same thing, but according to our attorney, and we did meet with the attorney, she's the one that recommended if you're going to do this, to do the 50% plus one. You are correct. The initial vote to change the amendment in order to go to court, you have to get 50% of the members.
Well, that's what I'm saying is that to change it on our own, we gotta get 2/3 of the membership to vote for it. I don't think that's ever gonna happen. Just because in fact, there's no national election that gets 2/3 of the people to vote. I would give close thought to setting us up with a vote that we can take to court. Because I think it's gonna be tough even to get. I don't know if you can really set it at 50% of the quorum. If that's gonna work. And one of the problems with 50% of the quorum is that means you got 352 people can amend the CCNRs or 1/3 of the membership. And the last time we brought this up, there was quite a bit of pushback from the homeowners on having a number that low. In other words, 1/3 of the members have potential to be able to change the CCNRs. So,
And again, Joe, I'm talking about process
yeah,
in terms of what you want to change from supermajority. I set this up for the 50%.1, which is sort of what the attorney suggested, and we went along with that. You could set it at 50% of the people of the members. You could set it at 55% of the people who vote. And we could have a further discussion about that before we did.
well, that's what I'm saying is that I think we need to have those discussions and gather input.
That's why the purpose of David did it this, because it's the lowest.
With something that we believe we can either pass with the membership. Well, actually, there's nothing we can pass with the membership, so I think it boils down to getting a good vote on something we believe the courts will accept.
And you do have to present it. Two things, you have to have a vote with the membership. And also before you go to court, you have to give notice to the membership. If anybody, particular member has an objection to it, their rights are protected.
Joe, the purpose of this was kind of start.
No, I think that's
getting the issues
excellent.
out there, so.
We've laid out the framework and there's something all the members can look at and understand. I'm working on the strategy.
Yeah, okay. Cindy, do you have any thoughts?
No, Dave, excellent job on this. I too would like the discussion continued. 50+1 is just not enough, in my opinion. It's high now, and that's by design. It's way high now, and it is impossible, but it is designed to be difficult to make changes. If not, anyone, could come in and make changes at any time. So I think we need to be a little cautious, and the discussion needs to continue about the total.
Okay. Joe?
Yes, I do have a couple of comments and a couple of questions too, right there. So, actually, this is the third time that this has been presented. I know that because I presented the first two. One of the questions that I do have on the 62%, and you mentioned it came in 2006 and it's kind of been around forever, and it does have some old language. We know that. But Carol and I are moving to a new trilogy because we love trilogy. And I can tell you that the bylaws and the CCNRs are virtually identical. And when I went through a couple of the trilogies we looked at, I kind of looked at this again, and I saw it more of not Shay trying to do something while they're building. I saw it more of a gap or guardrail to make sure that a small group of members or a board or anybody else could just ram something through on the majority of the members. So I disagree somewhat when you say this was done with their interest while developing property. I don't think that was the reason why it was done. I'm not saying I like it or even favor it. But I think it was put there for a reason, and I don't think it's the one that you may have listed.
Again, that's my own opinion about it, looking at it, and I think Shay had a definite self-interest when they write these.
And to Joe's point, we did do a town hall, and he's right. I mean, there was some significant pushback. We had a number of members that called out, even attorneys in the room, HOA attorneys who called out, wait a second, you guys need to take a second look at this and make sure you have your ducks in a row before you just proceed. On the obtaining of the board approval, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think when we did this before, didn't the board say, go ahead and proceed and try to put something together for an amendment?
It's kind of what we're doing.
Yeah, I mean, before.
Yeah.
This is an update. I wasn't asking for any.
Okay. On the page, yes, on the proposed amendment, having gone through this before, to try to make something simple so everybody understands is a real challenge. And even the one that I did was simple, but was still confusing. I think maybe it's a little bit of a rewrite on the proposal that you have to maybe make it a little more simple, something that's a little more cogent that people can look at and understand straight off the bat that this is what you're voting on. If members have to sit there and think, well, what does this mean? Most of them won't vote, and the others probably vote no. So I just encourage you to take a second look at the amendment write-up, see what you can do in it.
Well, the amendment write-up was really for purposes of this presentation.
Okay.
And again, I think we really have to go through the attorney for that.
Okay.
Something
And
that flashed through my mind on that, John, is another way to say it might be 583 votes for, and then in parentheses, representing 50% of the, in other words, get the percentage out of the way, and let's talk about a number.
Right.
And then the final one is on the next steps. So when I did this twice before, especially the first time I did this, I really struggled with adding this particular section about if we don't get to 50%. I really struggled to put that in because I didn't think it was the right message that I wanted out there to get support. Because what this says is, if we don't get the vote we're looking for, well, we'll just go to court and we'll ask a judge to change it and help us get it. It did, the flavor of it, the tone of it bothered me when I first saw this from the attorney, so I left it out. So if you're going to continue with this, I would highly recommend that if you're trying to get support, putting them even on minor threat act, there's probably not the best way to get support. So I'm not sure I would continue in this vein and just have it in your back pocket, because there will be members that see this and are not going to be happy with the way it's written. So I caution you on that. And finally, on attorneys, having been through this before, in fact, recently, attorney fees add up. So I don't know what the cost element is with this. I don't know if the committee talked about it. But these fees add up and add up. Even when I did it the first time, and I met with our attorney just 3 times, the bill was about $1,000. So I think we have to be aware of this and probably have, what we want to do really nailed down before we start meeting. I don't think we'd use the attorney as a working group. I think we need to use the attorney once we have a good idea of how we want to try to work this.
Well, let me address that. I do think that you need some sort of cost estimate. We're proposing to do 2 elections, really. The first election to change the requirement for the number of votes necessary, and then a second election to do the changes that we think are necessary for the CCNRs. Of course, there is another way to do it, and this again would be up to the board to decide. Instead of looking at an overall change of the CCNRs, is looking at what particular amendments you want and then present those. And if they don't pass, you have 1 vote, and then you'd have the option to go to court. And I bring the option to go to court. I mean, nobody really wants to do that, but I think that the members need to know that this is an alternative way of getting something through, just in full disclosure and transparency that, hey, this is what we're trying to do. We want to try to get the 2/3, but let's be realistic when we talk about it here about what the chances are that maybe, we'll, with the electronic voting, we'll surprise ourselves and, we'll get the vote we want. So,
Thanks, David. Appreciate it.
okay.
David, thanks very much, and,
All right.
I really appreciate you taking the lead on driving this forward, and we'll keep pressing on. Thank you very much. Next, we're gonna have a report from Cindy. I mentioned last board meeting, Joe wasn't here. But we talked about kind of fire prevention. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on in the fire safety realm. Our neighborhood has been rezoned, and so some of the homeowners are more impacted from others. And we, Joe and Cindy and I and John, we all felt we had to kind of get a group back together to kind of lead us through some of these changes that are coming down the pipe. So Cindy?
Okay, I don't have fancy slides though. I just have, I think, one slide that Jamie has. You'll think back about 11 months ago, we did have an ad hoc committee that looked at the safety of the community and the map, the zoning map that the state put out at that time. And we looked at it and said, you know what, this is a safe community. We talked to the local safety officials. They felt the same. About 6 months ago, the state changed the map. 1 month ago, that map became effective. This is the map. So if you see the middle left, that's essentially Tuscany. Below Tuscany is Vista Homes, the executive homes. If you see the middle section, that's St. Julian, the backside of St. Julian, Mulbeck, all the way up the hill. And then the yellow is down by the college. You can see the whole community is impacted. The yellow is medium. The middle goldish is high. And the stuff on the left is intense. Yeah, it is intense. So this is the map that the state is now using. At the National Night Out, if any of you went to that, I did ask the safety officials, what do they think about this? They don't go along with this map at all. They said this community is safe. It's new build. We used all top of the line equipment on the houses. The vines actually add a safe wall to the community. But nonetheless, this is what the state uses. And if anybody has a house policy with, nationwide and all of those, this is the map they use. So anyways, Jeff had asked if I could assemble that team again and look at the new changes, the new guidelines, and the new policies that we have to use, not only in landscaping, but also if you go to sell a house, there's a lot of things you have to do now, depending on what zone you fall into. So I assembled the team to come back. We also have some people up Mulbeck Way that have been doing this as well. Kathy is a big help with that on the hillside coming up. So we will be meeting to come up with the new guidelines, and you will be educated by this committee. This isn't something we will come in and do, but you will be given the steps of what you have to do as individuals who own a home. Okay?
So this is not a core HOA common area function, but it clearly impacts all of us. Even though my house is in the white area, I don't want to live here by myself. So, you guys need to really be careful to protect our community. So anyway, that group of people is going to be a resource. They're going to, get active. We're going to add some more people to it if people want to help out. We're going to figure out how to do the governance. There's some new law that came out with if you sell your home in this area. There's a lot of things that you need to know of. And so we're trying to get all that information. Think of it as a big library and a resource that homeowners will be able to go to, because you're gonna have to deal with it. It isn't going away. Thank you, Cindy.
Just to add, the homes in the red and the orange areas under the new laws are gonna get an inspection by the fire department every year.
Yeah.
And they will get a report as to the deficiencies, and they will have to comply. It hasn't been announced.
You say the homes?
The homes, individual homes. Actually, my wife's sitting back there somewhere. I think she has the first home
She's looking away.
that had to have an inspection by the fire department for only $333. It'll probably be cheaper on the annual ones. And the city of Long Beach is ahead of our fire department, but they put the charge for the inspection on your tax bill. So it's sort of like
we're getting into an area that's tough. And I talked to the fire marshal when he was out doing the inspection. And Cindy then got in touch. I think we're gonna be able to get them in to do some talks and things for us. But the world is gonna change a little bit. We're gonna have to figure out how to address it and make it easier for everybody. But if you're interested in this topic and want to help the people or have some expertise, you know, Cindy will be reaching out to you, but we really need to, this is not something for fun. This is work.
Yeah, like I said, we did this 12 months ago and we decided, nah, it's all good. And then they came out with the maps, the changed maps. And then we thought, not so good. And again, it is a safe community. I don't want anyone going home thinking, oh my gosh, I gotta pack up and go. It is safe, but we still need to be cautious based on what we have found out. And we will continue to update once we have all the info.
Okay, with that, we're gonna move to open forum. Jamie's got a couple of questions to answer. If you want to discuss something in open forum, please go to the microphone. Please don't shout out because the people at home can't hear you. So if you go over to the podium over there, it'd be appreciated. If you want to line up, because a whole bunch of you, we can move this relatively quick. But Jamie, you want to go through the questions we have?
Yeah, so I got one via email from Steve Sheffield. What's the latest update on the missing light post on Zippendale Drive, arrival and installation date? Did the driver of the car pay for it? So the driver of the car did not pay for it because what we received from the police department was it was a white SUV. And do you guys understand how many people here have a white SUV? When we were looking through the cameras at the entrances, I want to say about 25 went through and within 45 minutes of the accident. So it's actually pretty crazy how many of you guys have white SUVs. So no, they did not have to pay for it. We're not sure who it was. And neighbors have been really protective of their neighbors, it seems. So that's fine. The HOA is obviously going to be paying for that. We do have, so originally when they first placed the order, they said, oh, it's going to be 14 to 16 weeks because it's special order. And then when they received it, they got the wrong pole size. It was 8 feet instead of whatever the required, so that extended it. I just confirmed with them that the light is finally arrived, so they're just waiting on a scheduled date. So that should be happening very, very soon. So I appreciate your guys' patience with this, but of course it's a special order lights that was hard to replace. And hopefully the rock has satisfied some of you from not having to look at the orange cone for so long. So we're working on it. And that is all I have. But I did have received some that came in that would like to speak, but they're regarding a topic for the agenda. So
okay, we'll save those for later if you don't mind. Is there any other people in the audience want to say anything in an open forum about any topics or anything we've discussed today? Sir?
Hi, my name is Eric Federer. I live at 2023 Tempranillo Lane. And I only have one thing that I want to talk about, but I've got some other things prompted by the discussion. And first one's really simple. Can you appeal the fire map?
You can do anything. Yeah, you can do anything.
Well, Eric, let me.
Yeah. It's something.
I asked the commissioner for our area, and she basically said, you should have been at the Orinda Library in 2014 and 2020 when they were reviewing this. So the ship has sailed. That doesn't mean we can't go back if there's some logic, is what she told me. But this is a typical EIS process, and it takes forever.
The second thing is about the vote. You know, the minimum vote needed to amend. As of 2017, when I lived there, the state of Colorado allowed 51% to amend the state constitution. So people don't go willy-nilly and doing stuff. Colorado has a pretty good constitution. Second, the third thing is, I know we're going to talk about the vines later. I just want to remind everybody what happened 2 years ago with the infestation of the rats, when the grades were dropped. And that last year, there were very few rats when the grades were removed. And that this year ought to be like last year. It's a health issue. The people in the community will probably lose property value if the area is overrun with rats. And I don't think any of us want that to happen. And so I was going to add that it's a quality of life issue, especially now that we're not going to be harvesting any of the grapes. One more thing, my neighbor asked me to say this when she heard I was coming here. She lives at the corner of Rioja at Tempranillo, and she lives right next to the house that's on the vineyard. And she said that those vines have not been trimmed at all this year. Thank you very much.
We'll make sure the farmer looks at that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Name is Jim Kenna. I live over in Tuscany. For me, this is an old issue that I've gone with a year and a half or 2 years ago, and I was told it would be taken care of when Shay turns Tuscany over to the community. I don't know that anybody knows that answer yet, but the issue is the utter lack of any street markings. I'm talking about stop where there's a stop sign or crosswalks or any other markings. I think they were largely attributable to Shay when they did the heavy earthwork during they had the hiatus where they didn't build for a year or two, and then they moved earthwork back and forth so many times. I thought it was an apprentice training program. But and they swept the streets, I leave every night, but as a result, we haven't had street markings for several years now, probably 3. In addition, there's cracked and broken sidewalks that have been marked 6 or 8 months ago and then more recently marked again. Well, if they're marked for where does liability stand now? I wonder if somebody trips over the sidewalk or somebody gets hit. You know, I just wonder, is there anything you can do? It's occurred to me, go down to the police force and ask them who's responsible and what can be done. I mean, do people in Tuscany need to come in here with a petition or just?
Let Jamie address that, Jim, if you don't mind.
Pardon me?
Let Jamie address your comments if you don't mind.
So the markings are from requirements from the HOA in the city when we walked it with Shay. That's on the sidewalks and the gutters, as well as they are very aware that they have to do some street repairs as well. So all those markings are for them to go out to get proposals. From what I understand, proposals have been received and they're going through them right now to have the work completed. So all those markings are requirements from the city. Okay. So the city is aware of it. And so they did tell me, because of course they want to also turn this over to the HOA, they plan to have this done by the end of the summer. We are at the end of the summer. I will tell you that our street company, the paving company that we've used in the past, recommends that we do it in October because of our heat that we have. So they might be doing the same. They might be waiting until October to do Tuscany. It is a different coating. It's going to be slurry. It's going to be messy for you guys. It's going to be a different process than we're going to be having on the other villages. But it is on their docket. It is 100% on their schedule. They want to turn it over. They just have requirements from the HOA in the city from when we walked it months ago.
Thank you. If that doesn't happen, I'll be.
Harold?
Harold Kennedy, and I live on 1701 Zinfandel, and frankly, I still, having been here 3 years, don't know what village it's in. But going to what Dave said, I just wanted to be clarified. 1,065 homes. You need 533 people to vote yes. And that's my arithmetic, 74.96% of the people who vote. That came up previously. It's a tall order. I want everybody to be clear. You cannot go to court until you get that 75%. And my other point, of course, is on the damages with Shay. Statement of claims 5 years ago was with the RAP insurance, which is an insurance that the developer or owner buys to insure the general contractor and all subs, was about 12.5, and that increased over time. So query, the board assured that they can do all the remediation without a material contribution from the members. And I define material for the sake of this conversation as say $1 million, which is.
Well, first of all, just one thing is, there'll be a copy of the ruling, the statement of response to the statement of claim put on the MTL later today. We got approval from
And
the,
not today.
not today, sorry, later tomorrow. Sorry,
Can we
Jamie.
just say by Friday, just to be safe?
It's available very.
It'll be available, I
How's that?
promise.
But my point is.
But bear with me. Your real question is, can we get it all done for $8 million? You know, we're basing off the estimates through the process that we went through. We've got to determine what the true scope of work needs to be. You know, and so we think we can, based on the information we have, but when we get real contractors out here or get these people who looked at it before, pencil to paper, then we'll decide. And then we may have to do some value engineering or change the materials. I mean, so a like for like, maybe not, but are there some things? Do we need really big windows? Do we have smaller windows? Do we need windows at all? Does the heater need to be, that size? Does the ductwork need to be? There's a whole bunch of proof that's going to have to be done in this process, in this committee that Joe's putting together. We're going to hire professional people to do the work, but we have a lot of expertise in the community that can help us make sure that we're not getting sold a bill of goods. Joe?
Yeah, I think that does cover it. I mean, we asked for way more, of course you did. That's what the arbitrator said we could have. And I think there's something going on in the legal system because the net ended up coming pretty close to what our pocket bid was as to what it would cost to fix the pool bill. So, I don't know.
Arbitration's arbitrary.
Yes. That's why they call it. Any other comments for open forum? Seeing none, we'll move on to the rest of our agenda.
Does she have a question?
No.
Okay.
Now we'll move on to the next part of our agenda, and that's dealing with financials. During the last finance committee meeting, this is a little out of sequence because we did have the last board meeting, so we had some stuff roll over to this board meeting. And there's another finance meeting coming up in a couple of days, next Wednesday. So this is from, last board meeting. There were 3 items that we're going to talk about that were reserved requests. And I like to try and do them as a group, but these are some big items we need to be aware that what we're doing. The first one was an emergency ratification of an outdoor original pool jet. So can I get a motion to approve the ratification? Okay. Second. Thank you. That's motion's passed, no opposition. The next one is the olive trimming of the olive trees on HOA property as opposed to city property. So Jamie's going to walk you through that. And the finance committee approved that request, but we want to make sure the members know what you're getting for this expenditure.
Finance committee recommended.
Thank you. Thank you, Joe.
All right. First, I'm gonna just start out with saying that the HOA for this section, these sections is a total of 293 trees. These sections include, which you'll see in the homeowner packet, the few that they have at Bordeaux Park, as well as along the outside of Rome. These are owned by the HOA. So we went out to bid. It was kind of a struggle to get proposals, to get companies that were willing to trim on our slopes. But with that, we got a proposal from A Plus Tree and TerraCare. You'll see that A Plus Tree came in cheaper than TerraCare, but you'll also want to see the proposals that are later on for the areas that are owned by the city. And the main reason I believe that the finance committee recommended approval for A+ tree is because they're saying that we understand that you are going to be breaking this up for the next 4 years. And again, I want to say, I put in the recommendation and I provided that to the tree company. If you guys decide to do all of them, then great. But with that, they did say they will lock in their numbers for the next 4 years if we did go with A+ tree. So you'll see the recommendation for A+ tree for the HOA side as well as the city-owned side that the HOA maintains. This is the section that would be coming out of our reserve expense because again, they are HOA-owned olive trees. So if there's any additional questions, I'm more than happy to.
Real quick, Jamie, how about we want ours?
No,
Okay.
thank you. Sorry.
A comment or a question. Our policy in the past or practice has been that the olive trees that back up to the iron fences, the top 2 rows are trimmed to a height of 6 feet. Many years ago, there was a big squabble with Shea. Back in 2012, I think. And in some of that stuff, they said that normally the trees would be trimmed in the 8 to 10 foot height. So in trimming these trees, do we have a target as to what height what are we going to do with it?
So yes, I'm actually really glad that you brought that up. So yes, the previous farmers that we had would just trim for view purposes only. And it was just behind, the first 3 rows may be behind the Bordeaux residents that are not view fences, and then as well behind the row. There was no standard. It was just as low as you could for view, but as the trees grow, you're getting down to, the trunk area, the top of the trunk. So that was the only time that they were touched. Other than that, there was no thinning. So again, the reason why I'm so glad you brought this up is because they've never really been touched. And so they are so heavy and so thick that was another reason why we think it's just a good time to really address the trimming of all the trees. They do understand that we want to trim them down as low as possible for view reasons, but to also allow them to still be healthy. But we're going to get to a point where they are going to get so big that a view is not going to be a view anymore, to be fair.
Depends on how you.
Yeah, I understand that, but I think a lot of people know the more you trim, the more you maintain a tree, the thicker and more it grows. So eventually is what I'm saying. It's going to become an issue.
Well, actually, if you drive down Marsh Creek, you can see where an olive grove does trim the trees fairly heavily. So I would just say, talk about it, look at it. It addresses somewhat the issue that came up at the first part of the meeting about some trees blocking the views. And I think there's probably 2 standards. Those trees that are at and we don't have any HOA trees, but we're going to get to it. The other one against the stone wall, which is primarily for sound, we may want to let those get taller. And the ones that are against the black iron fences, especially the top couple rows, try to keep it pretty low.
Yeah, so, and like you said, we'll get to the other ones. I just wanted to make sure that we had a proposal for every single tree that we maintain. And I put them in sections just because I knew it was going to be a lot. So there's some sections you guys don't have to do it all, but yeah, those are phased out in years when we get to those ones.
Question, what about the trees in Miwok Park?
Those are trimmed completely differently and on a regular basis. So because those ones are trimmed for the olive club. So that's why they're not part of this. This is a heavy trim.
Cindy or John, do you have any comment or question? Okay. Tom, do you have a question on this? If you do, you can go up there really quickly. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Sorry for
no problem. So with that, I get a motion to follow the recommendation of the finance committee for the trimming of the HOA olive trees with A+ tree company. So moved.
Second.
No discussion, motion. Okay, That's been approved. Okay. Moving along, the next, project is street repair. As you know, every 4 or 5 years, we reseal the streets, and we made the decision last time to do it all at once rather than just this neighborhood, that neighborhood, because then we just got chaos all the time, and we get better economies of scale with our vendor. And I will say, this was Anna's first, big bid for us, and thank you very much. She worked with some of the vendors. So Jen, you want to walk us through that?
Yeah, definitely. So again, this is for doing seal coating, any type of asphalt repairs that were recommended and needed, as well as seal coating. And did I say painting? I don't know if I said. So anyways, there are quite a few different locations in the reserve study. So that's that second or that third page that you're going to see in there is a breakdown of all the responsibilities the Joy has for the streets. We sent out our contractor that did the work in 2020 and asked for their recommendations and specs. They came back and said, you do have some repairs that need to be done in the clubhouse parking lot. Other than that, there's just a crack filling, seal coating, and painting that need to be done. We took those specs out and Anna sent those out to other companies, and we got proposals. In between getting those proposals and the finance committee meeting, we also worked with the ADA committee, that was also doing some asphalt repair work and curb repair for their ADA recommendations for the project at the clubhouse. So we gave them the specs for the asphalt repair that was recommended, as well as the information for the seal coating of the clubhouse. At the finance committee meeting, they recommended that the ADA, which we'll be going over later, the ADA committee's company that they received the proposal from, that they handle the seal coating and the repairs for in the clubhouse all at the same time. It just made sense. So Anna was able to reach back out to the vendor, Dryco, who was recommended for approval by the finance committee to resubmit their proposal, removing the clubhouse ceiling and repair work, which is what came in. And that's that new proposal that you have now in your packet. So that proposal came in at 203,178. So of course, less than the recommended approval from the finance committee, but same company for Dryco.
Okay.
Sorry, that was a lot.
Yeah. Point is, October, if you have a vacation home, that might be a good place to go. I know last year my car was left out. I got rescued by about 5 minutes before some truck hauled it away. So
yes,
you remember.
Yes, I know. Yes.
Don't do that again. Any discussion on this?
I know I'm gonna get a call. Is this gonna fix the gaps that a lot of the?
In front of your house? No.
So
I'm losing too many pets.
I don't know if you're talking about crack filling, but crack filling is part of this. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
John, any questions, Joe? No. Good. Can I get a motion for approval of the contract with Dryco for the non-club paving?
And this excludes Tuscan.
Yeah.
We call it Rewalk and down that.
No, everywhere but.
Everywhere but Tuscany or
yeah.
the clubhouse.
Okay, so my street, since I've been there, it is water all year round in the street. They have a city engineer.
You're special.
Special place.
But
Are you talking about Moscato?
Are you talking about Moscato?
This
Okay.
is, yeah, this is seal coating. That is a whole different project, and that's part of,
it been taken care of.
No, it will be taken care of.
not during this project, it will not be.
So it's still not.
But it's on our list. It's going to get taken care of soon.
It was part of the defect
We
litigation.
had rain and I'm this far to the curb. Oh.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to accept,
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that motion approved. Next, we're going to talk about the paving at the clubhouse up here on the hill. And this is part of the work that Dave Gilbert and Ned and others have been leading as far as fixing or updating our ADA parking spaces. So let me tell you what you're going to get when this is all done. we're gonna relocate the existing 4 handicap spaces on the event center side. When I say all this work is to be done on the event center side, it's not gonna be done on the mailroom side. This is just on the event center side. We're relocate the existing 4 handicap spaces and move them closer to the club. And then we'll take those spaces and convert those into 6 spaces across the street. We'll have 1 van accessible space and 3 regular handicap spaces with proper curb ramping and signage. The existing handicap will be the existing place will be restriped to add for 6 new spaces. It's going to be done coincidentally with the paving of the parking lot up here. The ADA part of that is about $63,000, which we're going to have to do some of that anyway because we have to restripe for that. Some of that is reserved, some of it's capital. We have to get permits. And it'll be with the modifications on the other side to add more ADA spaces to be consistent with what the rules say we should be, will be done at a later date. But once we start construction in that building, it doesn't make sense to fix it and then tear it up later on. So that's kind of what you get on this side of the building. Jamie, you want to add what else we do?
Total work is $131,000. $115,000 is out of reserves and $15,000 is out of capital. It was recommended for approval from the finance committee.
Any discussion on this topic?
Just one comment. When you apply for the permits, they ask for the cost of the project. And that's not the total cost of the project. It's the cost of the part of the project that requires permit. Because they charge you based on what you say the cost of the project is. So you're just separating into 2 files. And go forward that way.
And we need to also kind of do our conditional permit reference to the city for the kitchen where we had that obligation.
Well,
we'll add that in there.
Keep tabs.
I do.
Yeah.
We'll say
that's one.
as long as Robert's here, I can keep tab.
Yeah, and then all that other AD work we're doing.
Right, it's gonna go on.
I had asked Scott to keep the spreadsheet of the cost and include the labor cost, right, not just the material cost.
Got all that. So we'll meet that obligation. So with that, can I get a motion for approval of the ADA parking lot project?
I move to approve the ADA Club Parking Lot project.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No. The motion passes. Okay, moving along. Olive tree trimming, it's back. This is olive tree trimming on the city olive trees that we are responsible for maintaining. Those under our license agreement with the city.
Yeah.
So Jamie, can you walk us through?
Yeah, so again, Terra Care and A Plus Tree provided us a proposal. There's a total of 6 sections. You'll see that the tree count goes from 2,337 to 2,477. One section I do want to explain why that there was a count difference was because on my map where I marked, I forgot this little section that's boxed in red. So A Plus was able to, or they on their own, just included those trees when Terra Care didn't. So again, these are all the areas where that is owned by the city, but maintained by the, excuse me, let me go back, maintained by the HOA. So those sections I did put out as a recommendation for per year for the next 4 years. I did include section 1 for this year, and the reason for that is because it is in the middle of Bordeaux. It is that grove. Although it's owned by the association, it heavily affects our homeowners. So I did recommend that section for this year. But section 4, 5, and 6 are spread out for each year, 26 through 28. Again, A Plus Tree did note that they would lock in their numbers if the board was to sign with them.
Any questions on the proposal for olive grove trimming on the city-owned property? No discussion. Can I get a motion for approval, please? And second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Old business. you recall at the meeting, I think of July 25th or something like that, the board made, John, no, we accepted John's resignation, the meeting before that, and so we're trying to figure out to fill that role as we are allowed to do under section 7.4 of our bylaws. As you know, John and Carol are moving to North Carolina. So the board took it upon itself to interview, we sent out a notice of application. We had 4 people apply for that, and thank you very much for those who applied. We could have picked any one of them and it would have been just great. So we really have thank those people who offered to participate. Each board member interviewed the 4 different candidates. And Helen, even though she's in Africa, she was able to do that. It wasn't midnight her time, but she got it done. So with that, the board met today in executive session and discussed the pluses and pluses of each of all 4 of the people, and we have a consensus. And with that, I'd like to get a vote, a motion, excuse me, to nominate Shay Weinreich to be the replacement for John's role once John leaves the community in the near future.
I'll second.
So moved. All those in favor?
Aye.
Can
Motion
I
passed.
just say this is one of the most difficult decisions I think we had to make because we had excellent candidates.
We did. I say everybody was great, so we're very happy about that. So we welcome Shay when you see her around the community. Thank her for stepping up and agreeing to fill in this 2 years of John's term. Moving right along. Ken, you're here. Oh, you're doing that?
Yeah.
Great communication. Okay, new business, DRC has some recommendations for design review changes, primarily focused around fire prevention. So Jamie's going to kind of walk us through the recommendations of the design review committee, and then we'll have a discussion on that subject.
All right, so a few things. One is when a homeowner's submitting a full front yard remodel application, no mulch is to be within 5 feet of the house. The next recommendation is any work within 5 feet of the house may not include mulch. Another one is to note mulch as not recommended on the plant palette, obviously because of it being fire prone. Completely remove rosemary from the approved list, but current planting, of course, is grandfathered in. And then the board asked the DRC to look into fencing and fence staining. They did find one specific type of fence staining that is what I guess would be considered fire retardant, but they did speak to a retired firefighter and they didn't recommend it just because there's real no proof that it actually works and the cost was exorbitant. So no recommendation for that. So those are just a few recommendations they have right now. They do also went through the whole entire plant palette and put what they recommend, what their recommendation was as fires being fire prone. So you will see that on MTL. They put a lot of work into it and it looks really nice. So just trying to help residents in the HOA out with when residents are choosing their plants.
To have a motion to approve these or to review, approve these? Okay, have a second, discussion? John?
No.
Go?
Just know if you have this now, you can keep it.
Right.
It's
Yes.
a new
Grandfather.
coming in.
I mean, I think this is just the first of other things we're gonna see that are,
On that fence issue, the real issue in the wildland fires is the fences that come up to the house. And I think the committee that Cindy's working with will be looking at that. But I'm envisioning in my mind that we will come up with a 5-foot gate that is used where the fence comes to your house, and it'll probably be a metal gate. Sunbusters did some nice metal work for me around my air conditioner in my backyard that I think could easily be modified to become a gate. And we can color control and everything on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the first of other stuff that's coming, but I think Cindy will be working, or Cindy's task group will be working with the DRC to kind of make sure that everything kind of syncs to it together, because this is, I know I got my insurance bill and it was not pretty, I'm sure, but at least I got one, so that. Okay, next item, Jamie, is the handrail recommendation.
Yeah, so this is just an edit of the current rule, just due to the current wording just causes some confusion to owners as well as some of the committee members. So right now, the current rule says handrails must be adjacent to the street, not extending beyond the stairwell. Selected style must be harmonious with the home, color must be black, bronze, or required DRC approval. The recommendations is handrail must be installed along a walkway or steps and may not extend into the sidewalk, driveway, or curb. So it's really just saying that you can have a handrail however you'd like. It just needs to be along a walkway or steps. And they may not extend into the sidewalk or driveway.
So just language care.
Yes, it's just clarification.
And the colors,
That part stays the same, so we're not, there's no edit to that. It's just really about the location.
Okay. Can I get a motion for adoption of the DRC recommendation?
move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
The motion passes. Next, we're gonna have a discussion about the viticulture committee, primarily focused on inventory count, kind of where we are. A bit of confusion on my part. I apologize. John had prepared something, Jamie was gonna prepare something, and we are not in sync, so we'll be dealing with the future of the viticulture committee at our next meeting, where we can get our ducks in a row, because my ducks are not in a row today, so I apologize for that. John, could you lead us through where we are on the VMC?
Next slide, please, Jamie. There we go. So back in June, when we started we've actually terminated the VMC wine business. We were charged with coming up with a way to distribute all those cases of wine, and at some point in 2025, get down to absolute zero cases of VMC wine. We started on July 6th, and on August 7th, we were down to 0 cases of Chardonnay, 0 cases of Rosé, 14 cases 20.2, and 294 cases of the 21, and 0 for the red blend. Since I put this together on Thursday and sent it to Jamie, we're now down to 209. I was able to get 299, sorry, 299 to another donation. And I have still outstanding a couple of people I need to follow up with that could amount to another 100 cases or so that we can be able to get rid of. So again, the goal is to get to 0 in 2025, which would allow the finance committee, if nothing else, to do their write down and be done with all this. I'm saying nothing for Blue Star can be done with it as well. So that's the totals, and I'll update the next month.
Okay, thank you. And I say, I do apologize, John was working on one plane, I was working another one, and they didn't match, so I apologize for that. Moving down to the next topic is the unharvested grape cleanup discussion. Jamie, would you mind leading us through that?
Yeah, before we do that, I just want to make sure that I'm following up. The people that responded and put in a forum for the viticulture committee, we're not ignoring you. It's just being redone for the next meeting. And so I'm able to put in my recommendations, as well as and then working with John to make sure we can get a better hold of that committee and ideas of what I am looking for as well, to put my request into the board.
Okay.
Harvest, yes. All right. So the very popular discussion of the unharvested grape cleanup. So we asked our current company, newer for less than a year, pricing for and options, recommendation options for how to handle the unsold fruit. This is the first year that we've had 0 sales in grapes, and we kind of knew that was going to happen this year. So this is the pricing for those recommendations or pricing, as well as photos of what to expect with those. So for drop and leaving on the ground of the grapes, They would do that every other row. This is standard farming practices. This is what had been done previously. You'll see in the photo that there's a whole section that really doesn't have any grapes, and then the next section that's heavily covered in grapes. The price for that is $20,000, and this is what a photo was from 2023 of what those rows look like. And next is we have what we did last year, drop and mulch into the ground. The most important thing I think is to note is that you cannot mulch until the first rain. So if we drop it, it's sitting there until it rains, and then we can go ahead and mulch it into the ground. The cost is $35,000. This is the photo from last year. Pick and haul next to homes only, and the homes only means not along John Muir Parkway or Vista Dorado because it's not our HOA, which is at $74,000, or pick and haul all, which so it is including John Muir Parkway and Vista Dorado for $85,000. I do want to note that like a standard harvest, some grapes still may fall and be left behind. This photo is a perfect example. You still see small little sections of grape here and there. But for the most part, it's all gone. So moving on to recommendation. Now, this recommendation is just mine and mine alone. So this is for board conversation. But my recommendation is to pick and haul next to homes only, so $74,000. I understand that maybe I misworded this next line. So I'm saying use the following vineyards budget money that will not be used this year to offset the cost. Now, grape COGS, what I'm saying is that's money that's not going to be spent or used because we're not going to be harvesting. So we're not going to have those costs. Also, vineyards marketing, we do have a little bit of vineyard marketing. Obviously, we didn't do that this year either. So I was saying for out of the $74,000, unbudgeted, which money that we don't really have around, is $44,830. Is what would be coming out of that expense. So I didn't mean that we're actually going to use great COGS. I don't know how to explain it, but it's just wasn't my intention to cause confusion. It was just showing that we do have some line items that we're not going to be using this year.
The bottom line is a cash impact of this recommendation of $74K that was unbudgeted.
Yeah.
And there's some things that we could apply to that to reduce that. But at the end of the day, we're $74K short.
Yes.
Of cash to do that. So Ted, is that a fair characterization?
Yeah,
Ted, stand up.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Yeah, just for reference, because there wasn't a meeting last month. We wrote off all of the barrel wine and bottled wine in June. So we took a charge on our June accounts of about roughly $196,000. So that zeroed everything out. So anything that we've sold, like Chardonnay, Rosé, whatever, will decrease that number. So we've got basically two costs. We've got the $196,000 from there. We've got the maybe $75,000 from here. Kind of $270,000. And so, yes, we have some offsets against that. The cash impact is only against this one.
Right.
And so the cash impact is probably around $65,000. Now, at the end of the year, last year, the forecast for the end of this year is that we'll have cash on hand of over $350,000, and that's the forecast going forward. So this is a chunk of money out of that, but we have the money available.
Okay, thank you, Ted. Does anybody have?
A couple more observations. One thing that's overlooked
Could you state your name, please, for the people on TV?
I'm Lloyd Bell.
Thank you.
I am a 12-year resident of Bordeaux, past board member, current member of the viticulture committee, but I'm speaking for myself today. A couple of things that are overlooked on the slide. Pay close attention to when you mulch and you have dry ground, that is going to create the need for bottles. It will create the need for labor to install those bottles. It will create the need for gravel for walking paths. And it will also create the need for labor to spread that around. So you really have to be careful of your ground cover in our vineyards because they're on a hillside and all they want to do is come down in the rain to go into your drainage. The other thing that I really want you to pay attention to is that cost issue. There is no free money out there.
Yeah.
And anything that we do today is likely to be pressed forward into years in the future. And you can very easily add $50,000 to $75,000 in your E&O expense by your actions today. So I'd ask you to carefully consider the ramifications of deviating from normal farming practices in our vineyard.
You know, the four different cases, what do you consider to be normal farming practice?
Can I ask a question? When we had the fruit fly infestation, we left the grapes on the vine until they dehydrated. And then we cut everything when we trimmed did the normal annual trimming of the vineyards. And then we got into the rodent issue later that year, and we came through and picked up all that stuff. What happens if we leave them and they dehydrate? We do the trimming and pick the stuff up before the rainy season, or
It's harder. You can do anything you want. I think the farmer said that was about 76 grand.
It's the same.
I heard it was 70. Did this
If you
76
harvest,
include?
if you harvest the fruit now and haul it away, that's 74 grand.
Right.
You're still gonna have to come back in the spring and trim.
Well, that's my question is, can't we put the two together and do it once?
You can do anything you want. Ask the farmer. He's the expert, what you should be doing. We've always urged the board to follow the lead of the farmer. We hired this expert. For Pete's sake, why don't you listen to him and follow what he says? Pretty simple. Thank you for your time and your service. Appreciate it.
Yeah, we should let your discussion first, and then we can do a motion on.
I think we should take a closer look at combining those two operations.
Oh, so what are the two that you're?
Okay. At some point this year, we have to trim all the vineyards, okay? And that material, maybe Lloyd, you can help me. I think they usually mulch that, don't they?
They usually mulch it if you try to harvest and when you trim, take all your clippings away, you're piling more expense on because you've got to haul what normally gets put back in the ground away for disposal, additional trucking, additional disposal, additional. It's foolhardy to think that you can combine the two, Joe.
Well, we almost did that the first time.
Put them on the ground and pick them up.
But we didn't pick them up until a long time afterwards.
Right.
And that's what I'm saying is put the two operations together, do it once.
That is the option. It's the pick and haul.
No, that's pick the grapes and haul.
the
You
grapes and
still haven't done the trimming of the vines and mulching or hauling.
That's a spring operation, is it not?
Well,
I'm confused. Hold on.
You prune in early spring, late winter, early spring.
So that's a separate operation.
That's a separate
Separated by
that
6
you're
months.
that you're going to have to do.
Right.
If you come through and pick earlier.
Yeah, but the grapes aren't a problem on the vine.
Right.
In fact, I don't think they're a problem on the ground, but we'll fight that war some other day. The issue is going through the vineyard, doing the work twice, whereas you could really do it once. And I think that we should explore that option before we make a decision on it. Nothing's gonna happen right away, so we have time to explore it.
Plus, with all the extras that get added.
Jamie, do you think the farmer would give us another answer on Joe's idea? So I just one second, I'll get you. You understand exactly what Joe's saying as far as to ask
To leave them on the,
Leave the grapes on the vine
through winter?
until we do the normal pruning of the vines.
Mhm.
And then we prune the vines and cut the grapes. And I think, as he said, they mulch all of that. We- One pass through rather than two.
Claude, if you have a comment.
Wait a second, I have a
Oh,
comment.
excuse me, John. Claude.
Hang
Claude,
on,
hold on a
Claude,
second.
hold on, I think the board has a discussion here. So, we've talked about doing this multiple times, and we've always talked about the homes that are impacted by the vineyards, that's all we're talking about. Jamie and Jeffrey, not just Jeffrey, but LMI have a way of doing this for the 74K. I'm not sure what the double thing you're talking about yet, so I'm willing to discuss that further. But I strongly advocate spending the money to get those cuttings and grapes out of there before they drop to the ground and create another issue. We've talked, in the 4 years I've been on the board, it inevitably comes up property values, property values, property values. And here's a situation where property values are being impacted. I don't understand why we're discussing whether we should do it or not. Now, I understand what you're trying to say because you're trying to save money, Joe, and I'm okay with that. But I think eliminating the removal of this debris from around the homeowners is mandatory. And I don't see how anybody, and we did this for any village that would have an issue, we would step up and try to find some funding to be able to help them out. We're gonna work as best we can on Cindy's gonna work as best she can with the fire prevention. That could involve some sort of cost down the road, we don't know. But if it did, I won't be here, but I for one would support it because that village needs some help. The homes around these vineyards have been crying for this concession now for 3 years. And we did it once and it worked really well. So why we wouldn't reconsider doing that again, I'm not connecting the dots, Joe.
Well, what we did before was drop and mulch. Okay? And that's your $35,000 picture. And actually, if you look at the rodent data, the rodents have come down. We have the normal, this winter was our peak rodent count again, and it happens in the winter because of the rain. That's what caused it, not really the grapes on the ground. And going through, since we're gonna go through there and mulch all the pruning anyway, I think you just go ahead and mulch the dry grapes with it, but I'm open to discussing it with the farmer.
Just so I understand, so the dried grapes would hang from now until
They would be
March,
on the
winter.
on the vine with everything else. That's what we did in 24. And then we dropped them and left them.
Right.
And that was the year that the entire county had the rodent infestation problem. And we did go through and pick up that material that had been dropped. We did not mulch it like we did last year, okay? And everybody seems to be happy with last year. It seems to be mulching it along with the pruning. At least should be investigated.
Lloyd, did you have a comment?
Yes, yeah, one thing I haven't heard in the whole thing, if removing the grapes is an option that will solve our issues. One of the financial offsets is the current Macaulay contract that we have with bait stations and traps around the vineyards itself. So there's an avenue, some cost savings.
A little bit. Thank you, Ted.
Yes. Again, Ted Knox, Chair of the Finance Committee, there's a couple of things there. We are way overspent on our Macaulay contracts because we've invested a lot more money in pest control. When we were talking about this, Jamie and I talked about this last week, standard practice is to leave them down, but we were very nervous about leaving them on the floor and then having the pest control problem. Obviously, my view from the point of view of supporting it is to say that we should haul them away now. We should make sure that we don't have that rodent problem. I'd also like, and I haven't thought about this before, Jamie, is to ask the farmer if we leave them on there now, what impact does that have on the grape harvest in the future? Because the future is that we want to improve the health of the vineyards. And the only way that
we can sell grapes in the future is if we improve the health of the vineyards, and I don't think that has been taken into consideration in the decision.
So we should go back to LMI and pose these exact questions. But that was my question. What does this do to the health of the vine? Ultimately,
The market for grapes will come back, but we shouldn't be doing anything now that damages that potential in the future.
Well, then I guess, I would make a recommendation, we refer this to the next meeting unless they LMI has some pressing need to have a decision made now, or can wait 2 weeks. And you can ask them these questions and we can add to our caseload and we can make a decision and put it behind us, so to speak, for now. So, you'll be behind.
Yeah.
Okay, is there any opposition to that recommendation?
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah, only if you go over there.
Hello, Nancy Lavelle from Tempranillo Lane. I'd just like to understand how we've gone from $25,000, which is how much it costs to pick up and remove the grapes when we did the cleanup, to now $75,000. Where is that extra $50,000 coming from? Because you did quote $25,000 for the cleanup of grapes.
So different vendor, he did give me a breakdown, 68,000 is labor alone.
And so why are we not using the same process or the same?
We're not using that vendor. He's
They
not
were-
under-
Well, the process that had price you're talking about is pretty close to the one I'm talking about.
Well, no, let's
Time we
be
did
fair,
that.
this is for all of our grapes. Oh, they were sold, some of them were sold last year, so we didn't have to address all the sections. Okay,
The
I think
year
we're
we
forgetting
did
that part.
The first year, when we had the fruit fly infestation.
Some of them were already sold then.
No one were sold during the fruit fly.
No, we they were, definitely.
Okay.
This is the first year that we did not sell any grapes.
So the difference then between the 25 and the 75 is that we're hauling more grapes away.
We're definitely. It is labor. It's
Right, but-
68,000.
Okay, I'm just trying to understand.
Well, yes, I can only assume, again, two different companies. This is the new farmer, so I can't tell you exactly, but I know for a fact that it's definitely a major part of it is the fact that this time it's all of our grapes, not just a section, you know, a portion, a majority of Tuscany, and then some other locations. This is all of them, besides, of course, Desiderado and along down there. Thanks.
You mind coming up here? Because nobody can hear you from back there, please.
So Eric Feder, Tempranillo. There's a lot of talk about the fact that green grapes, or dried grapes don't attract rats. Macaulay, the test folks, last year, when we had the same conversation, specifically said that yes, it does. You had a slide, there was a slide that said, Macaulay said that it does attract the vermin. Secondly, we moved here January of last year. And at the discussions at that time, we were hearing numbers from members of the viticulture committee. Oh, it's going to cost $100,000 to remove this. Oh, it's going to cost more than that. We can't imagine how much it's going to cost. It's going to break the bank. Every time that happened, the cost was lower, appreciably lower than what people were saying. So I just encourage you to look at the numbers, not listen to people who have a history of fabricating.
So the price that we got was from the contractor. And again, it's for all the grapes. Because we didn't sell any this year.
Thank you. So we'll bring this up, at the meeting of the, 28th, and I'll promise that we'll bring it up to, close to the appropriate parts of the agenda so we can get it done early instead of late. With that, we've concluded our agenda. Our next board meeting is, the 26th of August at 4 p.m. That's a Tuesday. My birthday's Wednesday, in case you wanted to know. We have a member appeal meeting, which is a short one, not this one, on September the 8th. And then we have an executive meeting also on September the 8th. Without any other comments or questions, we are done for the day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.